that way, you start thinking, well, what's a better way to store economic energy through time? And you realize that the currencies don't work, gold doesn't work. So what is money? Well, money in the last 30 years became the S&P index. You buy a diversified portfolio of companies, of stocks, which is a little bit better because maybe you're getting bled 2% a year by the management team, but the company's making money, and so maybe you can hold value. It turns out that the money's losing about 10% of its value a year, and the S&P index is going up about 10% a year. And you look at that for 100 years, and there's a very interesting correlation there. A diversified portfolio of assets is tracking the money supply. Okay, interesting. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem with holding stocks as a store of value is if the stock goes up by a factor of 10, there's a management team that has a fiduciary obligation to issue more stock. There's a temptation to issue stock. Stocks aren't scarce. The amount of equity shares will also go up. If the stock is overvalued versus the fundamentals of the company, the CEO is almost certainly going to issue more stock. And so that's one problem. The second problem is stocks have political nexus. They have management teams. They're in countries. They can be unionized. I can put a tariff on the product. I've got a competitor. What if the CEO goes bonkers? All sorts of interesting problems. What if the company gets expropriated by the government, or the jurisdiction it operates within? So stocks are an imperfect approach, better than gold. The other approach is buy a bunch of buildings in New York City, buy scarce desirable real estate in Miami, Los Angeles, London. That's an interesting idea, and the best idea in the 20th century, if you're going to try to either create wealth or hold your wealth. If you want to hold your wealth, you buy $1 billion worth of property. If you want to create wealth, you borrow $1 billion, and you buy $1 billion of property, and you start with $1 million of equity. A sliver of equity, and what you're doing is you're going short the currency, and you're going long the property. So if I told you, let's go to Argentina. If I told you in Argentina the peso is going to go from 1 peso to the dollar, to 5 pesos to the dollar, to 10 pesos to the dollar, to 20 pesos to the dollar, to 40, to 80, to 100, the black market rate right now is 210 pesos to the dollar, 220. If I told you it was going to collapse from 1 to 220, and you had 20 years of notice, what's your best strategy? Take your million pesos, convert it to dollars, and you're going to have 220 million pesos in 20 years. You're going to look rich. Better strategy is borrow 1 million pesos, convert to dollars.
Wow.
Best strategy would be mortgage your entire company in pesos, sell equity in your company in pesos, convert it all to dollars, and then get the dollars out of the country. Because if they're in the country, if the million pesos is converted to dollars in a bank in Argentina, then the government will basically pass a law, force your dollars to be converted back into pesos, devalue them. And I happen to have some experience with that because I actually had $1 million in Argentina during the last currency collapse. They converted it to pesos, they devalued it 10 to 1. A day later, I'd lost 90% of my money. So, simple idea.